Welcome to Women Don't Do That, where we empower you with inspiration, knowledge, and skills to redefine your boundaries and unleash your potential. I'm Stephanie Minton, founder and CEO of Beacon North Strategies and your guide. Small town girl turned CEO while navigating career, motherhood, ADHD, and chronic migraines. Our conversations range from interviews with visionary women to solo episodes filled with actionable insights. We are your hub for turning what ifs into let's go. Are you ready to redefine your possible? Let's get started. In this episode, I sit down with Melissa Lantsman, Member of Parliament for Thornhill and Deputy Leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. Elected in 2021, Melissa is already making waves with her fresh thinking in Ottawa. As a former public affairs executive and award-winning commentator, she brings a unique perspective on leadership, resilience, and creating change. Whether you're a political enthusiast or just curious about how one woman can shake things up, this conversation offers insights, inspiration, and a look at her vision for Canada. Welcome, Melissa.
Thanks for having me.
I want to start by getting to know you better. What does life look like for you right now?
Well, it's different every single day. I mean, I'm like humbled and honored beyond belief every single day to be the member of parliament of the very place that I grew up in. And now I get to represent. And I think I'm one of the first ones who like truly, sort of almost born here, lived here lived here my entire adult life or more of a big chunk of my adult life. And now you get to be the voice. You get to see the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows in the community. So that's a big part of my day. It's what I do for a living. But my day I think looks like a lot of people that are gonna be watching this. I gotta figure out how to do the stuff that I need to do. Pay bills, go grocery shopping, and do it all with I think a little less time than I ever had in my life. I've got amazing supporters, a family that is like fully on board for the mission and whatever it looks like, whatever day it is, and I'm super humbled and honored. But I also here's one thing that I will tell you. It's hearing like what's going on out there, particularly now.
Mhm.
It's like it's really heavy every single day.
Mhm.
There's people that tell you if you don't fix this,
Mhm.
uh, I'm leaving or I'm in a situation that it's even hard to repeat. And I'm going to
Mhm.
lose my home. I'm going to like that. That in a way that's a tough part.
Mhm. It's one of those things, I'm sure it motivates you, and yet it's so heavy at the same time.
Oh, it motivates you to absolutely know that what you're doing and why you're doing it is
Mhm.
going to impact a whole lot of people. But yeah, no, of course it's heavy. But it would be heavy for anybody else. I don't think there's anybody that goes to work or those who are taking care of the home and all of the things that you do. Like you hear these stories from everybody, and most of the time from people you never expected.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good reminder you never know what people are living through, right? And you certainly see some of that because you interact with so many Canadians. When you look at your life and what matters to you, what does motivate you?
What matters, what motivates? Well, I think it's simple. In my case, I've had some success in my professional life. I was blessed with parents who sacrificed, everything to be able to have us grow up in a safe neighborhood and have all of the opportunities of school and post secondary. So what motivates me is being able to do something bigger than where I came from and to actually fix things.
Hmm.
I'm not a very patient. I feel like this is a bit of purgatory. Like we know what's going on out there. We know the problems, and they get worse every single day.
Hmm.
And what motivates me is the optimism that people feel that it's all fixable.
Mm,
Not everybody, but certainly the majority of Canadians know that we can have the country back that we
mm,
all loved, and can be proud of.
mm. Yeah, it's a good motivation, and
Sure.
yeah, it's
What
a good way to
motivates you
live
to
your
do
life.
this? Can I ask the questions?
Ah, yeah. So this is like 6 years old. And funnily enough, Melissa, it actually came from my experience running for nomination for politics. I had lived in Ottawa for a while, and I went back to my home riding, which is a rural community in the part where I lived and grew up. And I actually faced quite a bit of sexism through that experience. I wouldn't say it impacted, of course, whether I won or lost the race, and also just the fact that women weren't interested, a lot of them, in politics. They would say, I'll have to ask my husband or things like that. And so I really started the podcast as a way for women to learn from other women and just to be inspired by their stories. And so I love having women from very different backgrounds, very different jobs, and yet there's something we can learn from each of them.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's that's a pretty good motivator.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
a
No, it's great.
pretty good podcast.
When we look at your life, we see you a lot in the news, right? Or on social media, but what do you like to do outside of work? How do you like to spend your time when you're not working?
So I'll tell you, I'm nicer in person. Than I appear on TV, at least in this role that I've been entrusted with. Um, Look, I'm a people person. I'm a relationship person. I like doing I think I like doing, if I have the opportunity to do what everybody likes to do, spend time with those that I care about, catch up with friends. I like being outside. I like the freedom of not of not being necessarily recognized. So traveling has become a whole lot more attractive. I love. I'm a big baseball fan. I like seeing other cities, other stadiums, and I'm a big live music person. And it doesn't really matter what. If somebody is playing something in front of me with talent that I don't have, I will be completely enamored. So those are
Yeah.
fundamentally. I like spending time with other people, and I find that there's less and less time to do that. So
Mhm.
when I do it, it means a whole lot more to me, and I try to really disconnect and be present.
Oh, that's fantastic. Did you see that in the old chapters in downtown Ottawa, there's a new music venue coming for Live Nation?
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
There's a Live Nation bought a couple of different venues around the country, and it's I love the outdoor show. I love people jamming on a guitar at a park. I don't even really care what it is.
Yes.
I I don't have any musical talent. I've tried and failed miserably, so I'm always enamored when somebody else does.
Oh, that's amazing. The fall courses of the Beacon North Mentorship Academy are here. Join us to boost your advocacy, communication, and media skills. Whether you're new to lobbying or a seasoned advocate, we've got something for everyone. Check out the schedule and secure your spot today. Link in bio for details. When you look at your career path, you mentioned earlier that you worked in the private sector, you've worked in politics before on the staff side. Can you walk us through a little bit of your career path that takes you to the role that you have today?
Sure, I come from a family that really wanted like just the set career path of I want you to have almost conservative, not conservative ideologically, but conservative in, I want you to have a 9 to 5 or whatever that looks like now. I want you to have a stable job with a pension and like an upward mobility, because I think that was the way that my parents saw success. And I had everything but that. It looks like, if you look at my resume, it looks almost as if I can't keep a job, but I jumped from different, from different things based on what I got good at, the opportunities that presented themselves. I
Mhm.
started as a young intern. I tried, I did the staffing piece when I was in the Harper government. I worked in with in sort of the biggest ministries with the smartest people driving forward communications issues, policy, the whole gamut. I spent some time in the private sector. I spent some time originally in the banking sector and hated every moment of
Oh.
it. And well, it just wasn't it wasn't for me, at least not at that juncture in my life, and went into to PR. And I've just had one of the things that I always talk about in career. I said yes to everything. I said yes to
Mhm.
almost every opportunity. I said yes to the extra project, the extra hours, and it presented me with a whole bunch of opportunities that I couldn't even chart. If
Right.
you asked me, where do you want to be in 5 years? Like I'm not one of those 5 year plans people.
Right.
I did what was interesting to me, and the opportunities presented themselves to me, and I got to do stuff with the biggest CEOs, a commentator, and a writer, for some of the biggest publications. I had a radio show, and all of those were almost
Mhm.
opportunities that I guess I created a little bit for myself, but also came at me because I was so open to saying yes. So do
Yes.
that.
Yeah, I love that. That's my career path has been similar, and the taking chances and the saying yes and kind of leaning in um really has also taken me to where I am today. So I echo that advice that you're sharing. How did you make that jump into running for elected office?
Well, so I actually want to say something about this thing before. Like, it doesn't not come at a cost. So I want, like,
Yes.
if people are watching this, like, I didn't have everything that I thought that I wanted at, like 25, and then 28, and then 32, and then 35. Like, that didn't, it wasn't a linear path for me. Like, I,
Mm,
I don't, I didn't have a family until later, and I didn't have a home until later, and I took lots of chances, and some of them worked out and some of them didn't. So I don't want this to think like just say yes to everything and everything will work out. It doesn't always work out.
no,
The
that's right.
the path is messy, but I always had it in the back of my head that public office was something that was potentially I wanted to do, and for a while there, I didn't, I didn't quite understand sort of how to get in. You mentioned you were in a nomination fight. Those family fights are the worst of the fights. But Peter Kent, who was in the seat for 13 years before me, and a great member of parliament for Thornhill and a minister in the Harper government. He decided that he was going to retire. I thought for sure he would do 4 more years, so I sort of planned, maybe when Peter retired, I would try to run in the place that I knew really well and that I grew up in. It turns out he retired, so I ran for a nomination against somebody who had been sitting member of provincial parliament. So it was a bit of a longer shot for me, but I thought that if I didn't do it, that I would
Hmm.
absolutely regret it. And if I didn't do it, there would be somebody sitting in the seat for 10 years, and I would never get the opportunity. But the answer is it's kind of always something I thought
Yeah.
about doing. So it wasn't a surprise to anyone.
Yeah, oh, that's amazing. It's nice when you have those visions and then they actually come reality, right? And you had the chance for that to happen and you had to work hard to make it happen. But it's so amazing to see those things follow through.
It does, it feels amazing, and then you realize, like, man, you can't do any of this without the people behind you, and all of those people that took a chance. They either took a risk without knowing you, they went out of their way to help you,
Yeah,
particularly in politics. This is really one of the only careers where you are constantly dependent on those who support you,
yeah.
um, and the support system around you. And I suspect that big time CEOs are like that, but they build from a vision, and I build with the builders around me.
Yeah, you're right. It's a lot to ask people for their time and money, and you need a significant amount of that to run for politics,
Oh
and
yeah.
then them to continue to support you. And it certainly is an ongoing work for you and for them, right? To go through those experiences. When you look at before early in your career being a staffer and then stepping into a leadership role into politics, that transition for people from, maybe working on a team and then becoming a manager can be really difficult to navigate. So what advice would you give to other women who are making that kind of shift in their careers?
Oh, well, I mean, it's not, for me, it wasn't an instant shift, and it's not a natural one. Um,
Mm,
I'd always focused on making sure that I wasn't the smartest person in the room. Otherwise, I think I'm in the wrong room. Always surround myself with people that could do their thing better than I would ever know their thing. Because it
right.
takes a lot of things to make politics work. So it takes a lot of things to make an office work. It takes a lot of things to make an organization, be it, nonprofit, an enterprise. And I think that I'm pretty good at making sure that the person that knows what they're doing is around me, and that they are empowered
Mm,
to make decisions, and that they explain to me, everything that they know about what I don't know, and then together we can come to some actual decision point. So that's it's the almost the diffusion of responsibility, but making sure that they're empowered, and that they're on board. So again, this is not my name happens to be on the side, so I make sure that I know, that every decision that comes out of, this place is one that I'm comfortable with. But man, I can't do it without help.
yeah, that's a great leadership lessons, right? Really what you're describing there and what you can learn from others and making sure you're empowering them. And there's so many places that you can apply that, Melissa, beyond politics, right? Like in corporate and in everything else. You're the deputy leader of the Conservative Party. I bet for a lot of listeners, if they're not as engaged in politics, they don't even know what that really looks like. So what are your responsibilities as a deputy leader?
Well, I sit around the leadership table, and our leader, and the next Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Poilievre's entrusted me, and I'm a co-deputy leader with another leader, and you're almost, you're almost charged with doing all of the things, and making sure that your voice is there at the table, whether it comes to policy and messaging, and particularly my region. I'm one of the only MPs in the GTA, although we've got a smattering of a brand new one also, and hopefully many more after the next election. But ensuring that the leader is well served with advice. And on my parliamentary duties, I've got I get to be that stand-in for many of the important files, particularly on economic files. Look, I think if you're watching, you know what the plan is. That we're gonna cut taxes and fix the budget and stop crime, and build homes, and being part of all of those priorities, I think is part of the job.
It's a lot of responsibility and an amazing opportunity
Huge.
to shape Canada. When you talk about leader Pierre Poilievre, I wanted to ask you, he is, as you mentioned, potentially the next Prime Minister of Canada. What is something about Pierre that might surprise listeners? Like that
Uh,
side that you see that we don't?
yeah, I completely. And people ask me this question sometimes, and
Yeah.
he listens to advice.
Hmm.
Um, and he'll take the advice, particularly of his caucus, because I think he knows the strength of leadership is comes from everybody, and I think he is very thoughtful. I don't
Hmm.
think there is ever an issue, and that he jumps into, without
Right.
thinking about all of the repercussions, all of the folks that would, potentially be aligned or non-aligned with the decision point. And then when he makes the decision, he will litigate that decision and make sure that everybody knows exactly why he has made that decision, why it's the right decision, and why we're going to go forward. And that's a
Mm,
really important thing to have in a leader, to know that the decision point was based on a thoughtful process, and
right,
that when a decision is made, that he's going to, that there is no wavering
right.
on that decision, and particularly in the Conservative Party, that's a quality in a leader which I think that everybody tremendously respects, and one that we so badly needed.
Right. That's so interesting because as a leader of a caucus, you're dealing with like lots of superstars and very smart and bright people. And I think there's a lot to learn from that leadership aspect about knowing that it's been really thought through when you make a decision and giving your rationale so people can understand how it was made. I think that's something that carries through to other things. Thanks for sharing that, because those are the things sometimes you don't hear that people find really, really interesting.
Yeah,
I,
no, I'm not talking out of turn here, but I think it's one of the remarkable qualities
mm,
of a leader. And the good thing is we actually like our leader, at least on our side. And it is a breath of fresh air that we have, somebody who is so forceful yet so
mm,
thoughtful, being at the helm of this, and
mm,
doing it because they've got a vision, and
mm.
frankly, that party has a vision to actually fix this country.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. When you mentioned earlier about your parents and you're the daughter of immigrants, how has that shaped your values and worldview?
Well, it is my entire worldview,
Right.
because I don't know anything else,
Yes.
and it is the view that shaped sort of my entire, education, at home, at least the informal education.
Yeah.
And so my parents are immigrants from the former Soviet Union. My parents have both since passed. My mom 4 years ago, and my dad less than
Mm,
a year ago. So it is their lessons,
mhm,
rooted in exactly why they moved to this country. Like, you have to remember, when you move here from the former Soviet Union, you leave a life of the exact opposite of what you're chasing here, right? You're
mhm,
chasing freedom and liberty and the ability to own a home and raise your family and practice your faith. And so that was their sacrifice, taking a leap of faith to make sure that their kids would
mm,
have, would know the life that they left, would never know the life, I should say, that they left behind. And it is because of their lessons, the faith that we grew up with in our home, and all of the stories of frankly what they ran away from, and repudiation of that, in a chase for something much better. So it colors my entire worldview, colors a lot of my jokes, and I am eternally grateful, that I won the birth lottery, and was born here, and then they made the choice, for that to
right.
actually.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting to hear you kind of you're right. It does shape your whole worldview. I know for me, I came from the Ottawa Valley, from a rural community, and my life is very different in terms of how I grew up than a lot of people I know that I live now in the city with. And neither of my parents have university degrees. Like it's a very different upbringing, and yet uh so many life lessons in the way that I look at the world is shaped from that experience. And it's quite amazing. When you look at the way the world is right now and some of the anti-immigrant sentiment, what do we need to do to address that?
Well, let's remember, like, why that is happening. And
Mm,
I'll say, for 150 years in this country, we had a consensus, on
yes.
immigration, that this was the best system in the entire world. People
Yeah.
studied the Canadian immigration system.
Yeah.
It brought people, 100 years ago, for the labor market needs that we had, primarily, agriculture at that time, to what it has brought in, even 10 years ago, to fill those, those places in the labor market, to have a generous refugee policy, to have a family reunification policy that brought in grandparents to look at grandkids, and there was cohesion, and there was a Canadian set of values that when you came here, you could bring your family, and you can bring your faith, and you can bring your food, and you can bring your all of those things, and and you could leave your troubles behind.
Right.
And I think today, with with the pressures on the system, on housing, on healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
on infrastructure, you have people saying, like, WTF, like, what happened to the system? This was the best system in the world, and they broke it, and they broke it in 10 years. So we have to get back to the point where the Canadian dream, the promise of coming here, allows you to, to buy a home in a safe neighborhood, afford food, gas, and work hard, get ahead, and do better for the next generation than you did. That
Mm-hmm.
promise has been broken, and I think bringing back that promise will quell some of what the feeling or the sentiment
Mm-hmm.
that is being driven by a government that broke the system.
Yeah, because it has felt like for so long that it was such a beautiful thing in Canada that all parties support it, right? And I think they still do, but it's
Yes.
just that, yeah, obviously we need to make some changes, but it's hard to see such a beautiful consensus being challenged right now.
Well, consensus
Um,
is hard to build in this country, and
mm,
for generations, both parties, the liberals and conservatives, were fundamentally, in line in that consensus. It is only since
mhm.
Justin Trudeau has become prime minister that that consensus has been broken.
Yeah, yeah, we're definitely seeing more issues right now. Talking about that, you are a Jewish woman. You represent that community at a time that is one of the most challenging times, I'm sure, in your generation that you've experienced. We're seeing more anti-Semitism, and I wanted to make sure that I gave you a moment to talk about that, how we can work together to prevent hate, if you can speak to that at all.
Yeah, look, I think, well, thank you for the platform on this. I actually represent one of the biggest Jewish communities in the country, the biggest Jewish community in the country. And for 80 years, we've had, since the Second World War, and the brutality of the Nazi regime, we've had relative peace
Mm,
around the world, particularly in the West,
right.
um, for Jews to, to live and be a part of the fabric of every country that they lived in. No less certainly Canadian than anyone else, active in enterprise and in civil society. And today, I think the division being stoked by the leaders at the top is one that is having an effect, certainly on the ground. We've seen a rise in hate crimes of 250% in the last
Mm,
10 years. We've had gunshots into schools and fire bombings into businesses, and people genuinely scared to be on their university campuses, or older Canadians scared to go to their local mall, because of the lawlessness and the degradation of law and order in our streets. And
mm,
the good news is that it is fixable. The bad news is it's not the governments of the day that have the courage to fix it, and we've seen it time and
mm,
time again. So I continue to be a voice for that community. We have the leadership of Pierre Poilievre, who's been unequivocal on making sure that this country is safe for every single Canadian that
mm.
wants to live and play and work here. And I think we have some policy fixes to stop driving the division that you're seeing driven from the top.
Mhm. Well, thank you for speaking to that, because I know it's a challenging issue, and yet clearly there's some work that's needed to be done there. When you look at, what you personally care about, or what are the issues that you are passionate about?
Look, I think I want what everybody in this country wants. And
Mm,
I want, I want a country that you can, no matter, who you are, and where you're from, and what your name is, and what language you speak, and what color you are, and when you came here, all of those things. I want people to be able to work hard, get ahead. I want them to be able to
mm,
afford a home in a safe neighborhood, send their kids to, to school, create a better life than the one before. I want what generations of Canadians have
hmm.
wanted. I want fairness for every single generation. I.e., I want young people to have opportunities that their parents have. I want law and order. I want criminals in jail and not on bail. I want social cohesion in this country. I want government out of your life, and lower taxes wouldn't hurt either. Those are the things that I've always wanted as a young conservative growing up, as a staffer, now as somebody who has the ability to be part of that change.
Hmm.
Um, I want this country to be, you can be anyone from anywhere and do anything.
Hmm. Yeah, the Canadian dream.
No, no kidding. It's
Yes.
a bit of a broken thing.
Hmm.
You ran. You must have thought about this question.
Ah,
I know this is
yeah. I
podcast sport.
feel
Yeah,
like,
breaking rules here.
yeah, I feel like because it was feels like a long time ago, it was in 2018. I feel like now, it's so funny to me because in some ways I'm an everyday Canadian, and yet I think because I work around politics. I do really care about some of those existential issues and big problems. I have a master's in international public policy. And I think one of the things that I would say, and this isn't quite your question, but something that very much consumes my brain, is the changing of the world order and the potential impacts. And I know just from my own education and some of the things that I'm interested in, I look at what's happening in the Middle East and in other places, and I can see some of the dots to past things in history. And there's some really big challenges. And sometimes I think, is Canada ready for what could come? It may not come, but the potentials of what could happen, with international security and other things like that. So those impacts on Canada in particular and how Canada is or isn't ready to address them, or are they taking the right leadership to address them, is something that I think about.
Yeah, I uh, I don't doubt it. I actually spend a lot of time on thinking if we're ready for the next frontier.
Yeah, yeah, there's lots going on. And, I think everyday Canadians just kind of living their life aren't thinking about some of those things, or maybe don't realize some of the things that are happening, and yet they could be so impactful to our lives. So it's funny. It's a good question to ask people because sometimes it's surprising. It's like, oh, what are you about?
Sure.
Global peace, world order.
Well, you only think about you think about those things when potentially you feel like they're being taken away from you. You think
Hmm.
about a time when your relative feeling of safety somehow just goes away overnight. Otherwise, I think most people don't think about crime. They know that it's a thing that happens, but if
Yes.
when until it happens to you and it shakes your very existence,
Yes.
then it becomes something that you care about a lot, and that's what we're seeing.
Yeah. No. Yeah. That's very true. When you are, I don't know if you would consider yourself this way outside politics, but you certainly come across as a strong and assertive woman, which challenges some of the stereotypes that sometimes we get as women. I've been told sometimes that, Stephanie, don't describe yourself as tenacious. That's not feminine. Women shouldn't be thought about themselves that way. Do you get criticisms for some of that leadership style? Like, has that affected you at all as a woman or no?
Yeah, look, I think you get criticism no matter what you do
That's probably true in politics in
in
particular.
politics, and I think the only thing I think the only thing that you can lean back on is you've got to be true to your own
Hmm.
leadership style. Like people can tell when it's an act, I've always, frankly, I've always been the way that I've been, and I think it breaks a lot of the preconceived notions and some of the molds of how you should be, how you should behave.
Hmm.
But it's one that it's one that I've relied on because it's one that's been successful. It's one that's motivated other people. It's one that's gotten
Hmm.
support from from people that see themselves in this. So, I mean, it's a tough question to answer. But if you're true to if you're true to yourself, then it's not really a leadership style. It's kind of just
Who you
or
are.
it's just kind of who you are.
Yes. I
And
get that, Melissa, because sometimes people say to me, "Oh, you're so confident, you're this." I'm like, I'm not trying to be. And sometimes I don't even feel like I am. Maybe I just come across that way, but it's just, it's who you are. There's no act. You're not trying to be. There's no, it's just is.
Yeah, look, I think if you can inspire and motivate some people around you, you're inevitably going to tick some people off, and that's
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. You, in politics in particular, have to work alongside people with different opinions. And this is something that listeners will also struggle with, whether it's professionally or personally. Do you have advice for like working through things like that when you've got different opinions, but you either need to be in relationship or get to somewhere together in the end?
Yeah, look, I don't know why it's not oftentimes you hear this thing like politics is more polarized than ever, and these people sit on this side and these people sit on this side. Like, we used to talk things out. It's
Yes,
like what they teach you in kindergarten. When you
right.
have like a conflict with with a peer, then you talk it out and you come to some kind of resolution. The same thing exists in a workplace.
Right.
And like, I've got to say, to those watching, like, if you find a political party that you are 100% aligned with, like, let me know.
Yeah.
Absolutely let me know, because I don't think that I've come across anyone. And I think it's important that wherever you are, even if you don't get your way, you get your say. And whether
Mm,
that's whether that's at a table behind closed doors, so you're not litigating necessarily this in public.
yeah.
uh, I think if you know where you stand, and that you're true to your own values, you're not going to have a problem. But if you expect that you're going to find some magical unicorn
Hmm.
where 100% of all of your thoughts, Stephanie, are going to be my thoughts,
Yeah.
uh, well, that makes for a really uninteresting life. And I just don't think I've come across it before. So,
Yeah.
I'm happy that I'm in a, I'm happy that I actually happen to sit in a party where there are people with differing views. But for the
Mm,
most part, I think we can come to a resolution whereby which we are working at the core of it, for people.
hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
and so far so good.
You might have just created a new bumper sticker there with your with your saying that you said about that. And yeah, that's, I think that's great to hear you share that. And something we need to see more of for sure, just in general. When we look at the Conservative Party and women, a lot of my listeners are women, and we see some of the changes happening. We see with more polling, more women are interested in the party. What do you think is making it more appealing and more relevant to women and moms today than maybe they saw in the past?
Well, I mean, without dividing the population into certain segments,
Hmm.
it's like that all needs to stop. But it turns out that women, just like men, feel the pinch of the everyday, the
Mm,
cost of living, the cost of a home, the rising crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder in our streets. And it is like no, it is no surprise that more and more people are coming on board, because the prime minister of this country has destroyed it. And I will say that, and I know that it's not a particularly partisan podcast, but I think that no matter who you are, if you're a woman or a man, or you have a family, you don't have a family, you came
mm,
here 500 years ago or 50 days ago, you see this country, I think, as something that could be better. And I think that everybody is going to work in order to make it so. Now, I'm not. I think there are challenges that women face that men necessarily don't face, and I think that they see in Pierre strong leadership that's going to make sure that those are brought to the forefront. And I know that you've had Anna on this
Yes.
podcast, and and I think her views on and her interests on things like human trafficking and
Hmm.
domestic violence and the platitudes just they're not fixing things. And I think that you need strong leadership and not platitudes in order to get to the bottom of this. And I think that that's why more women are coming on board.
Thank you for sharing that, because the audience is mostly women. And so to hear that from you, I think is really important. You are openly LGBTQ plus in politics, and it's been inspiring for many. Can you talk about what that journey has been like for you, and how it has shaped your experiences professionally and personally through the journey of politics?
So you're not going to like this answer because it hasn't shaped my journey, my journey professionally or politically. And nobody's ever written in an article like, Melissa Lantsman's straight or about anybody else.
Yeah, that's true.
It, it's it's certainly not something that I've ever hidden. And but it's also not something that is at the core of my identity.
Hmm.
Um, I've got a family, and I've got my own, I've got bills to pay, and like I've got all of the trials and tribulations of everyday Canadians that
Hmm.
are faced with it. But I do think I also have a responsibility, and a responsibility to make sure that there is an equality in this country that is afforded to every single person, no matter who they're married to or what their family looks like. And I think that I can I could speak about this in a way that few others can.
Right.
Um, and I think that I want people to see that no matter who you are, and who you love, and all of that, that you can do anything that you want to do. And if I'm
Hmm.
that for somebody else, it makes me really proud. But more than that, I want the government to stay out of this.
Mm.
And I want it to one day never be a thing. And I'm going to strive, I think, for a country where no offense taken to this question, where this question is not even asked, because it becomes something that isn't different.
No, I can really appreciate that, Melissa, and thank you for sharing that sentiment with us. And it definitely gives some food for thought, and some thoughts about where we need to go as a country,
We
for
got a
sure.
ways to go. I think we got a ways to go in making sure that people, no matter who they are, as adults living their life, feel comfortable in doing that.
Tickets for our second annual Next Gen 2025 event are live. Join me and Natasha Hope Morano as we host a day of professional development and networking on February 11th in Ottawa. Whether you're new to public affairs or seasoned pro, this event will help you advance your career. Early bird registration is open. Don't miss out. Link in show notes. Register now. You've been described as a next generation leader in Canadian politics. What does that mean to you?
I hope it's this generation, because the country can use a change. Look, I think I think Pierre has been able to attract a very young, excited demographic, and there's a reason for that. It's because young people in this country are screwed by the deal they're not getting. And I think that I'm a part of that. Now I'm not as young as the role that I play on TV. My number still starts with a 4. Um,
Yes.
and I think there is a growing movement of young conservatives, of conservatives that are the next generation who is now, for the first time in this country, something I read recently, more conservative than their parents, and an unapologetic view of what that means to, reject some of the woke obsessiveness of this government, and making sure that we pave a way for Canadians, for young Canadians, to be able to have what their parents had, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
Yeah. When you might have already said this a little bit, but and it might be too soon for this question, but when you think about politics in your political career, I mean, you're living it right now. What do you want to be known for? Like Melissa Lantsman this is what's marks her political
First and
experience.
foremost, I want to be known as somebody who is accessible in my community, and I break
Mm,
all kinds of rules on that. If you live in Thornhill, you probably have my cell phone number, which, to the chagrin of everybody around me, I want to be there. I want to be present. I want to be there for the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows, like I said, in the community. And I never want to be one of those people that is inaccessible. I don't follow the rules necessarily of protocol, and thanking all of the right people all the time, and mentioning, these people or those people. But I want to make sure that the people know that I'm in it for them. And I think that so far I've done a good job at that, and I never want to forget that. And the second thing is, I want to be known as somebody who was, for as long as I'm lucky enough to be in this seat, that I work hard every single day to bring the change that I said that I would bring. And
mm,
if for a moment I'm not doing that anymore, then knowing that it's time to move on
mhm.
is probably wise.
Those are some amazing thoughts. And I think you've already started living through them, like you said, and showing that leadership. Before we jump into the rapid fire questions, some quick
Okay.
questions to close off, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
Well, let's go into the
Okay.
rapid fire.
Can you
So.
share a rule you've broken that turned out to be a great decision?
Oh man, I break all of the rules. I break rules on what it is to be, a politician and have an office, and then just wade into crowds, wade into issues that I have no business being in. But it's actually only to be able to help somebody that has come to you for help. So oftentimes when we break those rules, we get results. So I don't think I'm going to stop breaking them.
Yes. Who's a woman who continually inspires you?
It's not going to be like some famous person or political figure. It's going to be my mother.
Mhm.
It's always going to be my mother, who believed that I can do the things that I can do, even when I didn't believe that I can.
Mm,
You always need that champion to lean on, and I miss her very much, and
mm.
I wish she was here to see it.
Yes. What's one book that has significantly impacted your wisdom or perspective?
Well, this one's easy because person of faith, and it's 5 books in the Torah, the five books of the Bible, and not because, not it's almost an instruction, that is based on cause and effect in those books. It's not based on belief. The word belief actually doesn't come in there, so it's not a particularly observant or a religious thing, but it's one that. It's one of those texts. I think it's the greatest texts ever written, to
Mm.
rules to live by to make it a better and more godly world.
Well, thank you very much, Melissa, for your time and for your advice and sharing your vision for Canada and the hope for the future. I think it's really important, and I think there's lots for people to take in there and to live some of that advice out. So thank you for your time.
Thanks for doing this. Thanks for having me, and thanks to everybody who's going to watch this. Make sure you share it.
Thanks for joining us on Women Don't Do That. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating or review. Connect with us on Instagram at Women Don't Do That, and visit our website www.womendon'tdothat.com for more details. Join our Patreon to support our work. Find all of the links in the show notes. Remember, you have the power to transform your what ifs into let's go. Together, let's redefine your possible. Until next time. The opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Women Don't Do That, Stephanie Mitten, or affiliated brands.